Hey y'all, so I am back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about my FOs, whips, and acquisitions. So starting off with what I'm wearing, I am wearing the Cloud Sweater by PetiteKnit. It comes about here on my sleeves and everything like that. But just to give y'all like a little bit of like background and everything, so I did end up knitting a size large, just so I could fit into like a size small because my gauge was way off. My gauge ended up being 19 stitches by 28 rows using the 4.5mm needles, which was recommended. But like I said, my gauge was way off, and I just ended up doing the math just to make it fit to a size small. I would say that if I were to knit this again, that I probably would go up to a size XL, like knit on the same needles and everything, but knit a size XL just so it can be a little bit bigger on me. And then for sure I would definitely knit the sleeves a little longer, which I don't mind where they stop. However, I wish they had stopped like about here, just with my arms down and everything. But I will say I absolutely loved knitting this pattern. It was very straightforward and everything like that. It was a joy to knit on, and this is my favorite color, y'all. Green is my favorite color. So that also might have added onto why I enjoyed knitting it so much. But I did end up using Hobbii Friends, what is it called? Extra Fine Merino in Olive, and the Kid Silk, the Friends Kid Silk in Pale Matcha, just so you know, it has a little bit of dimension to it and everything. But I rated this whole knit, like the pattern and just joy of knitting on it, a 10 out of 10. And so since we're on PetiteKnit, I also have recently knit the Sophie Shawl. I just didn't think that the scarf was practical for me. For one, I don't really wear scarves in general, but it was really cold this winter and in South Carolina, so I was just like, baby, I kind of do need a scarf, but I was never gonna wear that tiny scarf, so that's why I went with the shawl. I did end up using Cascade's 220 Heathers in the color Jet for this. This was knit on 5mm needles, and my gauge was 17 stitches by 30 rows, and I believe that is the gauge that was called for with this pattern. So yes, it was a very quick knit. I want to say it took me about, in my book I have my little journal, my little knitting journal, but it took me 6 days, but realistically it took me 3 days. I just kind of got tired of doing the back and forth knitting. It's kind of like just endless knitting in a sense, but besides, you know, that it was a very enjoyable knit. I would rate it probably about an 8.5 out of 10 overall. I do enjoy the color. It's very versatile. I could wear it with pretty much anything. I mean, I honestly have worn it with this as well. So it's very like, you can wear it with dark colored clothes, light colored clothes, you know, whatever. So next, another finished object is my Wallflower Pullover by Andrea Goggin. Y'all, this is my first ever color work project, and it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, why didn't nobody tell me that color work is actually so easy? I ended up knitting it like English and continental style. Like I would hold the contrasting color continental style and then do like the main color English style. But I didn't even think that I could do continental knitting, but I can when it comes down to color work. Just doing regular continental knitting with, like, if I was to do it with this, oh baby, it would take me forever to finish this. But with that, with the Wallflower pullover, my gauge was 28 stitches by 36 rows on a 3.5 millimeter needle, and I believe my gauge was slightly smaller than what was recommended. I believe the gauge was supposed to be like 26 stitches over 34 rows, something like that. So it does fit a little more snug than what it should, but honestly I really don't mind it. It keeps me warm and everything like that, and also I kind of just like the slightly tighter fit to it, especially with the size that I ended up having to knit it in, because it was a test knit. So I did end up knitting size B in fit 1, and basically the difference between fit 1 and fit 2 is just how tight the sleeves are, and I think the body, like the ribbing at the bottom of the body, is just a little more snug than it would be on fit 2. I will say the only thing that I would change if I was to knit it again is that I would do a size larger, just because, like I said, it was a little bit of a tighter fit with my gauge and everything. But also that just could have been because, one, this is my first time ever knitting color work, and then two, because it's my first time knitting color work, my gauge was a little tighter than it normally would have been. I ended up using Audine Wool's Flannel by oh my gosh, let me get myself together for a second. I ended up using Audine Wool's Flannel by Knit Crate, which they're not in business anymore, in the color Slate. And for the main color, I used the Brooklyn Tweed Tones Light and Overtone Stonewash. Both of those yarns I absolutely loved. I will say the Audine Woods is a little more on the itchier side, because it does have alpaca in it, but it really doesn't bother me. But I did do like a contrasting on all of my ribs and everything like that, so I think that added a little bit more flair to it. But I will say, if I was to knit that again, I would find a non-itchy yarn just to have at that collar, if I was to do like the contrasting there. What else do I have? Oh, last thing. So I ended up making this crochet beanie, which is a commission, but it's for a friend of mine. She messaged me. She said her mom's birthday is this month, and she thought her mom would like something like this. She told me her favorite color was purple, and so I was like, okay, let me think of something. So I basically kind of like based this off of poinsettias. How it's like in the center of a poinsettia, it's darker, and then it kind of fades out to white, and then it goes dark again. So that was my inspo with that. This was very quick. I found the pattern, a free pattern online for it, and however, I don't remember who I found the pattern, like who it was written by, but if I can find it, then I'll put it somewhere on the screen. Oh, and then I also have two other finished projects, but I don't have them with me. They were the Microshorts by Loupy Studio. I was blessed to be a part of the test knit for that. I ended up knitting a pair for myself using the mix, We Are Knitters, the mixed yarn, which is 50% cotton, 50% wool. And I stupidly, mistakenly put it in with the rest of my dirty clothes. So when I went to go wash it, I forgot that they were even in there, and they shrunk down a lot. So I ended up just giving them to my friend. However, I also had knit her own pair for her birthday, using yarn bees, one of their hand dyed wools. However, I don't remember what the name of it was because I lost the tag to it. But with both of those, my gauge was at 21 stitches over 25 rows using 4mm needles, and then I used 3.5mm needles for the leg ribbing and the waist ribbing on both of those. I knit a size 6 for myself and then a size 1 for her, and like I said, mine shrunk down and I gave them to her and they fit her perfectly. So they shrunk 5 sizes, baby. That's all for my finished objects. All of those knits have been done from January 1st up until I believe about last week, or 2 weeks ago, and it is March 10th at the moment. So about in a 2-month span, I finished about six knits and 1 crochet project. So I'm starting the year off pretty good, if I say so myself. Normally I'm a little bit of a slower knitter, but now thinking back on it, I'm like, dang, I actually kind of, knit up a few items lately. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about current whips. So currently I am test knitting the Flannel slipover. I think that is how it's pronounced. And I might also, I'm not even gonna try to say her last name. But it is a pattern written by Josephine G. But so far I have finished the front and back panel and then joined in the round, and as you can see, I have started on the ribbing. I still have a bit of a ways to go for the ribbing. However, I do want to try this on first before I finish the knitting, just because I don't want it to be entirely too long. But this test knit is due by April 26th, and I feel like I have 16 more days. I feel like I'm on a good way to being finished on time. It has the same gauge that I ended up knitting with the cloud sweater, so it's slightly different. With this, I am also using 4.5mm needles, and my gauge was 18.5 stitches over 26 rows. And I am knitting the size small. What else can I say about this? So far, I'm really liking knitting on this. I will say, once I got to the body, I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of a little bored with knitting stockinette. So there's that. But honestly, overall, like, it's a decent knit, fairly quick. I think I've only been knitting on it for about 2 weeks in reality, but I want to say about a month altogether. Just been like spacing it out on knitting it because I've been trying to finish other projects, or I just have other things going on in life. But currently this is my only whip at the moment, so yeah. Since we're done with that, I only have 1 whip. Now we're moving on to acquisitions. Friends. I don't really have any like yarn ideas at the moment for the first two that I'm going to mention. So if y'all have any like yarn suggestions, please let me know. But I do want to knit another pair of Microshorts by Loupy Studios, just because, like I said, the ones that I had initially knit for myself shrunk. So I do want to knit another pair of those. And then I have also been added as a test knitter for the granny tank. It's a crochet granny tank top by Alethea Handmade. And with that, I am knitting a size small. I don't remember the gauge for it, but I need suggestions for that. I might also just look through to see what I already have in stock, and then figure out something from there, because I do believe that I have enough like cotton yarn to make I think I have a cone of pink cotton yarn that might be enough yarn to make that top, but I'm not 100% sure. And then I also want to make the Romanesco tank by Ranty Studios. I've had this project, this pattern in my library for probably about a year now, maybe a little over a year. And I've kind of just been like stressing myself out about knitting it, just because I'm gonna show y'all, just because like y'all, I hope it's focusing. Yeah, that kind of looks difficult. However, I was recently looking at the like projects that people have already finished on Ravelry, and everybody was saying that it actually isn't as bad as it seems. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll, you know, try that out this summer. But I plan to knit that in We Are Knitters, the mixed, in the color Wine. I also have the Clementis vest on my list of possible projects. However, I do want it to fit more so like oh my gosh, I forget the name of this pattern, but it is a free pattern on Ravelry. I'll put it on the screen, but I want it to fit more of like a high neck, more of like a high neck like this, but still have the same structural integrity of the original Clementis vest. I plan to knit that in a size small. However, I have not tried to do a gauge swatch yet. Also, this pattern is by Emma Mayer, but more than likely I'm still gonna knit a size small, even if my gauge is too big. Too small, then I'll just end up doing the math the same way that I did for the cloud sweater. And I plan to use Knitting for Olive in the color Pea Shoots. They're the linen yarn. And then lastly, I want to knit the Celine vest, also by Emma Mayer, in the size 2. And I will also be using Knitting for Olive linen yarn in the color Putty for that. But these are all like, I'm really in no rush at the moment. I will say first, I plan to finish this vest before I start on any of these other projects, just because I am kind of, you know, on a crunch of time just to finish it. And then after that, I will more than likely knit my hot shorts again, just because, y'all, it's getting a little hot in South Carolina. I know today I'm wearing this sweater, but all last week it was fairly warm. It was like in the high 70s, mid 80s. So it's getting warm fairly quickly. And I just need some shorts. Whether it's just to like chill around the house or go on a quick like grocery run or errand run or whatever case may be. So that is what I plan to knit first after finishing the vest. And then of course the test knit granny tank, but I believe that will only take me like a few days, a week max, and we have a 4-week grace period for that. But yes, that's all I have for today. Like I said, if y'all have any yarn suggestions for anything that's on my acquisitions list, it doesn't just necessarily have to be for the granny tank and the micro shorts. Please comment them down below, because I'm always in the business for, you know, finding some new yarns to try out and everything like that. But yes, I hope y'all enjoyed this quick little video, and I hope to see y'all on the next one.